Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. So my last couple of videos, last couple of days, I was doing some home repairs, which is part of home ownership, and I don't mind doing it so much, but working in the garage is really my passion. I'm an all-around guy. I can do a little bit of everything, not much of anything all that great, but if I'm in a jam, I can get out of it. So it's been a week since I got back from my trip, and my motorcycle is still sitting over here. Let's get through the entire garage here. Still sitting over here, and I've washed it, and that's about all I've done to it. So I need to do an oil change. I need to change the rear differential. It's a shaft drive bike, so I need to change the oil in the rear differential, and I need to swap some tires on here. So I don't have new tires, but I have the tires I took off before I left, which probably have 4,000 or 5,000 miles left on them. So that's what I'm going to do today. So step one is going to be to let's see. I'm going to need to move this little fella off of here and move the trophy wife's Rhino out of here, and we got some painting projects in the way, so let me get at that. Oh, and I haven't gone big time yet, but I got myself a little bit fancier camera tripod here, so I'm excited. I just got this. The Amazon guy just dropped it off, so I'm excited to try that out. And I think, looking at some of these mounts here, I might be able to utilize some stuff maybe to mount it on my motorcycle. We'll see how it works. But I know I've been wanting to do a little bit of footage from the bike. I don't have any big trips planned, but you never know. I do day trips, and desert season's coming up real soon. I got this Honda that I built up a few months ago. I got this thing as a real total pile of crap, and now it's just a nice looking pile of crap. But I'm excited to take it out and try it out. So let me start moving some stuff out the way, and we'll get started. It's a big beast to get up on there. So, I'm a little lightheaded. Got the beastie up here. Now we pull the skid plate off, get an oil drain pan under here, and do the oil change. So I got the engine warmed up. I'm going to pull the skid plate off. I'm using one of my favorite tools here. I got this Ryobi cordless impact driver. My son gave it to me for Christmas a couple of years ago. Was it last year? I love this thing. Very useful for getting smaller fasteners off. We're knocking stuff back together real quick. Now it does have limitations, such as I'm willing to bet it ain't gonna fit underneath here. So that's all right. We're just gonna have to go with the old Harbor Freight composite 1/4 inch drive here, which is another one of my favorite tools. I use this one quite often. I have a lot of Craftsman tools in my shop, which is because of my dad. My dad used Craftsman tools, so like father, like son. But there's a Harbor Freight just down the road, and some of their tools are pretty good. Now, you won't be hearing me say that professional mechanics should use Harbor Freight tools, but some of their stuff's pretty good. And this composite ratchet would be one of those items I would say is pretty good. And also all their hand tools, Pittsburgh, they all have lifetime warranty. So with the current status of Sears and Craftsman, which is, who knows? Because Sears is kind of teetering on bankruptcy. So that being said, I don't know if I want to trust having a lifetime warranty on tools. Well, what lifetime is that going to be? My lifetime, the lifetime of the Craftsman name. So, I'm not saying that Harbor Freight is going to be around that much longer either than Craftsman. I do believe Stanley Tools bought the Craftsman name. So, perhaps they will live on, but perhaps they won't. That oil's pretty dark. I put a few more miles on it than I was supposed to. But such is life when you're on the road trying to get home. So on the Yamaha Super Ténéré, it's got 2 drains. And I haven't really looked up why there's 2 drain ports, but there's 2 drain ports. And this is what's considered a dry sump engine, which means that it doesn't carry its oil always in the pan. There's different areas where the engine oil sits, which kind of makes it a pain to check the oil, because you have to run the motor for a few minutes and then let it cool off for a minute and then check the oil. So if you're not familiar with that process, you can tend to overfill this thing, because if it's just been sitting overnight, the engine oil will look like it's low. So the oil is mostly drained out there. I pulled the filter off, and I'm going to be installing a new filter here. Today I bought a Fram motorcycle oil filter, and what I took off with this bike is actually a Fram automotive filter. So a lot of different schools of thought on this. Some people will say, hey, only ever run the OEM. Some people hate Fram for whatever reason. I think possibly the old Fram filters maybe were not the best. And I could imagine that there's probably more complaints with Fram filters than with any other filter on the market. But that being said, I'm willing to bet that Fram sells more filters than every other filter company at least in the US. I don't know about in the world, but I have ran Fram filters on almost everything I've ever owned, and I have never had an issue. Are there better filters out there? Probably. Am I ever concerned about my oil filter being a part of a problem on my motorcycle? No. I also don't run motorcycle oil in my motorcycle. Oh, the horror. I run Shell Rotella in every motorcycle in my garage. This motorcycle has run it since I've owned it. I am not a spokesperson or a shill for Shell. So run what you like. Go ahead and enjoy whatever religion you like and whatever political party that you like and whatever ice cream flavor that you like, and allow me to make my choice for the same. That's what's great about this country and this world for the most part. We can make these decisions and we shouldn't be judged on them. But judge away. I am not running motorcycle oil in my motorcycle. All right, now that we've got that diesel truck oil in my motorcycle and that terrible Fram filter on there, I mean, somehow I was able to ride it across the US and Canada and such with that in there, but I'm sure there'll be some haters at some point who'll say that my motorcycle will spontaneously combust, but it's in there again. We'll see how she holds up. Next thing on the agenda is this differential. So I've never done this before, but I'm guessing this is our drain port here. So let's go ahead and pop that bad boy open. Oh man, she is tight too. There you go. And that oil looks pretty good. Oh, there's my skid plate. I'm kicking it around. Let's see here. That oil doesn't look bad at all. Chances are I probably didn't even have to drain that, but I know I put at least 20,000 miles on this bike, so it's probably a good idea to do her anyway. So let me take a look and see what gear oil I got. Hopefully I got the right stuff and I don't put car gear oil in there. So on some vehicles, when you remove a drain bolt, it'll have a, let's see if we can get that in the camera. It'll have a magnet on the end of it, and that you can check. Actually, your best bet, let me get a clean paper towel. I'll be right back. You either get a white rag or a paper towel, and you can clean that magnet off and see what kind of goodies you got on there. So in there, it's just got a little bit of like, I don't see any metallic stuff. Actually, there's a little bit of metallic stuff. You can see it. See if it'll focus on it just a little bit. I wouldn't say that's an unusual amount, but you know, you keep an eye on those sort of things, because then you can find out if you have an impending problem. I would say the chances of there being a problem on the final drive unit on this bike is pretty slim. These are pretty well known for being reliable. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the drain plug back in, and then right here is the fill plug. So what I gotta do, I found myself some 80W90 gear oil, which is what it calls for. Yeah, and it's not a top of the line brand. I just had some here, Coastal, which I think is like an AutoZone brand or something, I don't know. But what I'm gonna need to do is fill a small funnel and put a hose on it to go into here. And it says it takes 0.18 quart, 0.18 of a quart. I'll double check that, but that's not a lot, a couple ounces. So I have got a little measuring cup, and I'm probably just going to fill the measuring cup with a couple of ounces, and then I'm going to take my smallest funnel and put a piece of rubber hose on it to go into here, and then put it in there. And what you do is you fill it up until it reaches just the bottom of the threads right there. So let me get that all set up, and we'll see if we can come on back and show you how to do her. So a little bit of basic math. I went for 0.18 quarts, and a quart is 32 ounces. 0.18. Let's round it up to 0.2, so that's 6.4 ounces. So I put, let's see, where's the mark on the side here? I put 6 ounces of this gear oil in here, and here's my wacky wild funnel set up here. I even took a, I think that's for a ceiling fan, but it goes all the way through, and that fits nicely in there. Let's back this up. Oops. Back this up a bit. Maybe you can get a better view. Oh yeah, wonderful. And let's see how this works. It's gear oil, so it's going to go nice and slow. $80W90 weight. Reminds me of those commercials where they're pouring the syrup and it's so thick and rich, and you can just let it go nice and slow. Although this isn't going to be very good on pancakes. Somewhere in my mess of a garage I've got a pump that I can put right on this gallon of gear oil, which is how you usually would fill up a differential or something like that on an automobile. Which is probably one of the most neglected items on your car. If you have a rear-wheel drive car, the chances that your differential oil has ever been changed is probably pretty slim. Alright, so that's 6 ounces in there. And I'm going to have to wipe that off and check, but I think we've got it. Alright, so we got the differential all buttoned up again here. I had to add about another ounce maybe after I stopped the video. Torqued that down, cleaned everything up. Got both the drain plugs in, got my oil filter on. Still need to put the skid plate back on. 3 bolts, no problem. So the fluids have all been changed. Oh yeah, and I just ran the bike up for a minute. Let's see if we can see the oil level. See it in there? Hang on. There you go. It's not focusing very good, but right between the low and the high point. So our oil level is good. So next on the agenda is tires. You see how worn out these tires are? That's a wear bar right there, they call it, between the tread. And you can see it's pretty worn. And the front is worn kind of at a funny angle. See, it's lower here than it is. Focus, there you go. So it's cupping, which is not uncommon with knobby tires on the highway. And this is the tire I mounted before I left on my trip. So it's got 17,000 miles on that front tire. That's pretty dang good. And the back one, I changed out at about 10-ish thousand. So that back one's got 66 or something. I'll have to check, about 7,000, which is more than I would think I would have got out of it. But so my garage is like a treasure trove of goodies. I got all kinds of stuff up here. The tires, and spare gas tanks, and tires, and parts, and pieces, and there's half of a motorcycle up there, but up there, I had these tires that I took off before I left. So, I've got a Shinko 705 front, which is what's on the back right now, but the fronts last a lot longer. So this front, I would say, has at least 5,000 or 6,000 miles left in it. And the rear tire I got here is a Heidenau Scout K60, and these are also well known for lasting a long time. I don't know how many miles are on this tire, but it's got a fair amount of grip left on it. So, since I can mount my own tires, I'm gonna put these back on there. If you were paying to get tires mounted, well, maybe it's not gonna be worth your money to mount them, but it's worth my time. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the skid plate on the bike. I'm gonna drop it off the lift. Not drop it, I'm going to lower it off the lift. Lower it, take it off the lift, put it right here in the center of the garage, put it up on the center stand so I can start doing tires. Skid plates on and down we go here. It's just as easy as that, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so first and foremost, we're gonna have to get this rear wheel off. And let's see if we can get a good view here. There's a 27 millimeter nut here. We're just gonna loosen that to that point. Then there's a, excuse the light, there's a pinch bolt here that holds the axle. I'm just gonna pull that all the way out, even though I don't have to, because there's a lot of dirt there, so I can clean that up afterwards. All right, the last time I did this, I remember I tried to sneak by without doing some of the steps, but we're best off to loosen both of these brake caliper retaining bolts. And I've got this gear wrench, 12 millimeter ratcheting wrench. I love these things. Let's see here. Let's go the loosening direction. Come on. I'll hold that there. I'll loosen the front one as well, which I can see you don't have a very good view of. It's right here. And one other item I should probably do is this ABS sensor here. I don't remember if I'm supposed to take that out or not, but better safe than sorry. Let's loosen that up. And we'll remove that. All right. And now if everything went as it's supposed to, which sometimes that does work, sometimes that works in my garage, this axle should come right on out. Look at that. It's sort of coming out. Now you can see it's got a great big Allen wrench head there, but I don't know as if I have that size Allen wrench in my collection. I might not, but I don't really need it because I should be able to just pull that out right at your faces here. All right, so this should come out. This should slide up and out of the way. And lucky I took that ABS sensor off. There we go. This washer went right about there. And now this entire wheel will eventually come out. But I just realized I did the same thing I did last time I did this, and I'll show you what happened. This is the Cush drive right here, and that is, I'll show you how that all works in a minute, but I have to get that whole thing out and it's kind of wedged in there, so I'm gonna take you off video for a minute while I fight this. Okay, so now that it's done kicking my ass and I fixed it, I'll kind of explain what the Cush drive is. So inside of the drive hub here, there's these sets of little rubber bumpers. This is the final drive on the bike. The shaft drive motorcycle turns to a right angle here, drives to these splines, which this spline engages on, and it has all these little teeth on it, and these go right between these Cush drive rubbers. So what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to dampen the vibrations from the engine, right? So that you get a little bit smoother ride. Well, what happens when I take this wheel off, and I've done this the last 2 times I've changed the tire, so I need anyone who's watching this video to remind me about this next time, is that I start getting a little excited on getting the wheel off, and, oops, there goes the whole thing, and this part comes apart there, but this stays engaged into there, and it won't all fit out of there. So next time I do a tire, y'all remind me to start pushing that plate off there instead of pulling the wheel off, because all I got to do is just put a little pry bar or screwdriver in there and pry that right off. All right, so I'm going to set up my tire changing stuff and I'll get right back. So this is my bead breaker here. This is actually a Harbor Freight. Once again, I'm extolling the virtues of Harbor Freight tools. This is a Harbor Freight automotive tire changer, and I've changed some car tires with this. It works okay. But for motorcycle tires, it works best as a bead breaker. Let me see if I can. There you go. Look at that. It's a beauty. Shinko tires are not extremely stiff, but they're not the softest compound either. They're pretty fair value. I've used them before. Like I said, I got one for the front over there. And I've already pulled the valve stem out. These are falling out of my overhead where I grabbed these tires. Just saw a sleeping bag fall out of there that I didn't even remember I had up there. Anyone here need a sleeping bag? I have a lot of them. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and set up my tire station and we'll bring you back there. This is my little tire changing stand, and I kind of forgot this thing even has a bead breaker on it. So maybe I'll try that on the front, but that Harbor Freight one works really well. And I can't remember, I bought this thing off of Craigslist or something, this tire changing stand, and it just makes it a little bit nicer. I do 99% of my own tires. I have a balancer as well, a little static balancer. So if you've never done tires, there's a big trick to doing the tires. And that is, if you look at the shape of the rim, all motorcycle rims have a dish in the center. So in order to get this tire off, you're not going to stretch it. It's got steel belts and all that stuff in it. So you're not going to be able to stretch it over this like maybe you could on a bicycle. So the trick is to push the opposite end of where you have your tire spoon, try to push it as far down into that center as you can. Now, you know, it sounds good in theory, but doing it by yourself on a stiff tire can be a real bear. So we'll just see how this goes. Sometimes I feel like I know what I'm doing, and other times the tires make me feel like a fool. It helps to have a big belly, I think. Push it in there. I'm working on getting rid of my belly, so I'm kind of at a disadvantage here, but once you get it going, it should go pretty good. At that point, you don't even have to really worry about the drop center anymore because you've got enough over the other side to get it on. Now the same rings true when you're putting a new tire on. You have to get in the center. Let's get two of them in here and see if we can't get this hole. Ta-da! Yeah, well, almost ta-da. There you go. So there's one. Now the outside one can be a real pain in the backside as well. And well, we'll just see how we fight it here. We'll just see if we can fight it off or not. Sometimes it's not bad, sometimes it's a real pain. All right. And I will never ever say that I am the king at doing these, because I know some people who are dang good at them. But I can hold my own, that's for sure. Oh yeah, and it's plenty warm in my garage too right now, so that always helps. It's never cool when you're working on these things. Let's try flipping it over and peeling it off the bottom. Sometimes that works. Like I said, I am not the end-all be-all when it comes to tire changes. If you watch some YouTube videos, there's some people who can just peel these things off like a rotted grape or something. But it doesn't always work that way. Every once in a while I get lucky though. I get a winner. But I never fail, so we'll just go with that. I won't fail. Well, before I knock the camera off, I'm going to set this thing down on the ground so I get a little bit more leverage. All right, so on the ground you get a little bit more leverage, and just with what I had peeled off, I can, you got to grunt a lot, but voila, there she is. Look, I even got a tire in there. And wow, am I ever sweating. All right, so I've wiped off a lot of sweat here. It's still hot. So a couple things. When you get the tire off, you can check out your rim, look for cracks, check your spokes, check your wheel bearings, check your brakes. Of course, check your brake pads. And it's probably a very crappy picture. We got light, there's brake pads, you can kind of see them. All right, and then some other hints. Leave your tires out in the sun, which I left them out there. It's hot today. So they warm up nicely, so they'll stretch a little bit more. Get yourself some, it says glass cleaner, that's soapy water. Get yourself some soapy water. And then look for this direction arrow on that wheel. So you have to think, let's see, this is the drive side. So looking at it from here, the wheel's rolling in that direction. So our direction arrow is correct. All right, now let's see if it's at all possible for y'all to see what the hell's going on here when I mount this thing. I don't know how well this is going to turn out, but I'm going to spray some water on it. There we go. Soapy water. There we go. Direction arrow is correct. Use my belly. push it on there. Tire irons. And let's get working here. Let's get to town. Making progress already. As much as you might not believe it. It's almost on already. This side anyway. Now, just like if you have to ever eat an elephant, your best way to do it is one small bite at a time. So, using these tire irons, you don't want to take too big of a bite. But getting the tire on just a little bit at a time, and have some patience, and maybe a couple of choice words, and a little bit of bloodletting once in a while. A little bit of bloodletting once in a while doesn't hurt either. Well, no, actually, it hurts quite a bit. But you know, you'll heal up. And as they say in prison, blood is a lubricant. You don't want to put that one to the test, though. All right, so you push her in by hand. Sometimes it can be a real pain because you'll get some on this side, and this other corner will start peeling out, and you're just kind of chasing around. So they make a couple of tools to do this to make life easier on you, but you know, I grew up in the Midwest. I never had and there you go. And I never had life easy, so why should I change that? Oh yeah. Well, I kind of figured that might happen. And this isn't the best view anyway. I wish I could mount this thing right on my head so you can see what's going on. But as you can see, I'm kind of fighting around it here. And I've got about half of it. And this is what I'm talking about, pushing it into the center. So, well, let me see. I'll mount this right on the back of the bike. And maybe you can look over my shoulder. We'll see how this looks on post-production editing here. Those of you who watch my channel know I don't do a lot of that, but let's see. With everything else going on, I dropped my tools. I've got a third tire iron, so let's see if we can't move me over to this side so that you can watch me struggle. See if we can hold that tire iron in there. And just like I said with eating the elephant, one small bite at a time. There we go. It's still kind of staying in there. Belly is not doing me any justice here. Put a little sweat on it. Oh, you can see that popped out already, but I think we're going to be okay. Let's leave this one on this side and we'll take a bite on this side. Maybe. Take another bite over here. Strip some sweat on there. And another bite right there. And we're down to the last leg here. This is where it really gets vital to keep this pushed in as much as you possibly can. Now, why do I do this myself, you might ask? Well, number one, like I said, it's probably not worth it to take this in and get a used tire mounted. Number two, I've got a lot of bikes. Now I'm not doing bad, but I'm not a millionaire either, so maintaining all of these bikes could get quite costly. So everything I can do myself means that I can enjoy getting out and riding these bikes some more. So now that I got both beads mounted on here, loaded with sweat, I'm going to go ahead and put the valve core in there, air up this tire, install it, take the front one off, do the same thing. I got sweat in my eyes. So I'm not gonna record that because I got enough footage already, but I'll come back to you once she's done. How's that sound? Yeah? All right. Let's see how this fella works here. Not quite as good as the Harbor Freight one. Let me get that busted off and we'll switch this up, switch this tire out. So the front tire is a 19-inch tire, a little bit narrower. It's a little bit easier to mount than the rear tire. Now, I was just thinking of something that I would give as Tom's Tinkering and Adventures words of wisdom. If you're going to do something stupid like possibly ride your motorcycle for 2 months on the road, you might want to become familiar with things like this, because you just never know where you're going to be when disaster may happen. Now, I had enough stuff on the bike that I could, in theory, do a tire change. Now, breaking the bead, now that's a trick that I haven't quite mastered without the bead breaker tool here. Now, my buddy Ken, who was riding with me, he had some tire irons that you could use to break the bead, and we tried them. They work. They're a little bit of a pain, but they do work. And I'm going to probably get a set of those just in case, but learning how to do your tires yourself could just save you on the road from having to walk or abandon your motorcycle and hitchhike somewhere to go get it, or pay big bucks to get it towed, things like that. So that's another good reason to learn how to do this on your own. Let's see if we can get this bead deceit on here. There she goes. Very small pop. Air compressor's kicking in. And we got a little bit over 35 PSI. That ought to be enough to seat it. Hopefully y'all saw that. Okay, so I'm almost done here, but I want to show you a little something here. If you're still watching, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for watching thus far. And I know sometimes my videos can go a little bit long. I can ramble on, and maybe my production values aren't the greatest, but cheers, thank you very much. And so if you've watched the beginning where I worked on the back tire, I said I didn't have that size Allen wrench. Well, let me show you the way that we do things here sometimes in my garage. This is things that I learned growing up in the country when you just got to get things done. So this is I can't remember the nomenclature for this, but I bought this at Home Depot for $1.50. And I think it's for connecting threaded rods together. Look at this. $19mm wrench. I can put the socket on there, get the correct torque spec on that thing, and all is done as far as getting that. Well, I have to tighten these up as well, but you get the picture. So I got a new used front tire, a new used rear tire, we got fresh oil in the engine, we got fresh oil in the final drive system. The only thing I have left really that I would like to do is my air filter, which I haven't got yet. So I mentioned having the tools to get the job done if you're going to be out on the road. So let me just show you a quick example here. So here's 2 tire irons, and they used to look a little bit nicer. They got a little corroded. 2 tire irons. I got my little fancy tool there. My 19mm wrench, Craftsman. You can get whatever you need. Here's a 3rd tire iron, and look at what this thing has on the end of it. Ta-da! And I have this little chunk of an Allen wrench that I had cut off of my Allen wrench set because I need to get into a spot somewhere. But anyway, where does this one fit? This one fits something. I needed this for some, oh, I know what it was for because I have an Allen wrench for that. I don't have one for this. There we go, and then an 8mm wrench fits on that. So I could just buy a cheap Allen wrench set, but this is what I had laying around when I left. I threw all that in there. These items go inside of a plastic bag, which I then put inside of a second plastic bag, and then I put all this crap in this old dirty sock that I had laying in my garage. Tied that sock up, threw it in the bottom of my bags, and I had it in case I needed it, and I never touched it on my road trip. So I think I've shot enough video today. I'm dirty, I can see it on the camera. I'm tired, I'm sweaty, but the bike is ready to go for a short adventure now. I'm only missing the air filter, and that was my major casualty on this trip. I'm missing one of those. So I need to remember to get online and order that. So if you've watched this entire video, thank you very much. Hit that thumbs up. Hit me some comments. Tell me what I'm doing right. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'm all right with it. You can say it. It's cool. And hit that subscribe button if you would. I would appreciate it. Then you can see more of this kind of fun stuff, and you can see whatever else I might have hanging out up here. Oh, look at that. There's a piece of trim board coming out of there. I got all kinds of more things going on in this garage. You just never know what I am going to be working on next. Thanks for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.